Today is the day. I know you've all been waiting. I know you've all been so patient and so kind and so understanding, but it's actually happening. You're not crazy. You're not insane. You are completely right in being in your mind, and it is happening. Don't you worry. Invite to join Lucas, Jade. We are inviting our guest right now, view request, to join. Let's find our superhero of the day. Jade Zumann. And it's happening. We're going to have our talk. Boom, boom. Invite to join. Oh no, we might be having a hiccup, but that's okay. I'm just going to message him on my personal account. But we anticipated this. We also love the anticipation. It makes it more exciting. I know you're waiting. Oh my God, I know you're waiting. It's going to be amazing. Joining us now. Oh, Tiny Home.
Oh, hey, there you are. I'm sorry, I'm just figuring this out right now. What's up,
Okay.
Steven? It's been so long, dude. How are you?
I know. Look at it. I think it has been since obviously the show
That we've actually had like a conversation other than like over like Instagram or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Crazy because you sent me that photo of us when we were doing. I feel like we should share that photo because I think it's so funny. This just adorable, like with you with the mustache and me and like I love the late 1800s wardrobe that we were donning, and we're owning it too. We really are.
Completely. I mean, like there was such like tension and chemistry between the two of us in that particular photo. So it's worth a gander. We'll totally drop that in here. But just not only is it a blast from the past, but just like seeing ourselves in the 1880s garb is also just like it just feels further away.
It's a real chic, we might want to bring that back. There's a few fits from that show that I feel like I just wanted for myself, particularly the ice skates that we had in the last season. So like those ice skates, for some reason, they fit me so well, and I can't find any ice skates like anywhere else that like quite fit me like that. I don't know why.
Well, because you need a period piece ice skate that fits your foot like a corset.
That's probably what it was. Yeah. That's probably what it was.
Yeah.
It needed to grip the ankles.
At least you were allowed to look nice, like your outfits actually were complimentary to you, being like just a heartthrob stud muffin. I would like to say the same for myself, but I think I would be wrong if I did.
Well, there's a certain level of transcendence to the character that I don't think anybody who's got that kind of style can really hide. So don't fear. I'm seeing my grandma's in here. Beverly D'Angelo's in here. What's up, you guys?
Amazing. I love that your grandma has Instagram. That's
yeah. It's so funny. My grandmother on my mother's side finds things on Instagram before I do, on the internet, period. Like she'll send me an article before it even like came out. It's like, how did you know this existed? It's crazy.
You're the old soul. You're the old soul.
I think that's what it is. I am the grandpa of the family, and my grandmother's way more technical, or at least in social media and in locating articles online. She's way better at finding stuff than I am.
Well, this all explains your affinity for vintage clothing at the exact same time. So it's like it's all adding up. It's all connected.
Oh, you see, I didn't make that connection.
Well, that's why I'm here to put the dots together.
Look at you.
Well,
yeah.
Let's dive into this interview because these people have been so excited to hear from you. I'll do a quick introduction. I'll introduce you, and then we'll just begin.
Absolutely.
Great. Well, thank you everyone for joining us today. Thank you, Lucas, for joining us today. We're going to do a quick shout out to Kino for hosting this industry conversation. And for those of you who don't know, Kino is a new film company that's working to democratize film ensuring the people actually involved in the magic of movie making are being properly compensated for their work while elevating the fan experience and championing underrepresented stories, all of which is a beautiful focus on community. Nobody would be anywhere without it. And it's why we've gathered here today to celebrate in the excellence and talent that is our friend Lucas Jade Zumann. Boom, boom, boom.
Oh, wow.
Shout out.
That was quite... Oh, wow. I feel honored with that introduction, but I'll take it. I'll take it.
You should. You made your motion picture debut in Blumhouse Productions' Sinister 2, which looked very terrifying. I'm really bad with scary movies, not gonna lie. And after just having completed a role in the Netflix production Sense8, you went on to parts in the movie Thrill Ride and the Chicago Fire series. You're best known for your starring role as Jamie in writer-director Mike Mills' critically acclaimed film, 20th Century Women, Dr. Bird's Advice for Sad Poets, and obviously the wildly popular series Anne with an E, where you played the brooding Gilbert Blythe, where we met. When not before the cameras, you enjoy hobbies like photography, filmmaking, playing guitar, aerial arts, martial arts, parkour, and now building your own home, which is like, you just do so much. Also, one thing I noticed in your career, in most of your projects, you are asked to dance in some type of way.
Oh, yeah, you know, I've noticed that too, and I'm not necessarily a dancer really, but it tends to work its way into the projects I do, whether I like it or not. This musical spirit can't be shut down, I suppose.
I guess no.
So yeah, it tends to. I'm an avid music appreciator, and I think that it reads.
Oh, for sure it reads. It reads.
Yeah.
When you communicate it through your body, it reads. Also, another hilarious thing, which you already know, but I'm just going to say it out loud for everybody, was that there was a friend who was talking about a project, and the character was a pilot, and I was like, oh, I feel like Lucas would do a good job at that. Why don't I let him know about it? And I didn't even know, like, you knew how to fly a plane. Like,
wait, really? Oh, that's funny. So why'd you think of me then?
I was like, I don't know, he's a good actor. Why don't you talk to him?
Oh, you're too nice.
Which is so funny. But anyways, let's dive into your journey and the story that is you and your life. Where did it all begin for you? What was the first moment that you realized you were an artist, or that you were compelled to be a storyteller?
Well, I think I owe a lot of natural sort of attraction to the arts from my family. They're very artistic people. My father is a fantastic musician, and my mother was very involved in musical theater and things of that nature. It's just things that sort of my family gravitated towards, but they were never like pushing me into doing the performing arts or anything of that nature. It was sort of something I came across an interest for myself. I kind of was always enjoying, you know, the school plays and things like that, and I started doing community theater, and I think community theater is what really spawned my original attraction towards being in front of the camera. But outside of that, I would just love making films with my friends in our building. We had like a building in Chicago that had like families with kids all our age, so we would meet up and we would make films together, and I was always the toughest director. I mean, I just was brutal. Just brutal. I mean, I definitely think I haven't lost that sort of, let's just say, adamancy towards directing.
What made you so brutal?
I just think that I wasn't very friendly about it, and I was just cold. Sometimes, you know, you need to say something that not everybody wants to hear in order to get done what needs to be done. And for a 8 to 10-year-old kid living in a building with a bunch of kids his age, you know, that's not necessarily how to get them to want to continue doing it pro bono. But and so I learned that the hard way, for sure. But you know, ever since then, I've just been kind of attracted towards filmmaking, period. Being in front of and behind the camera. I love doing cinematography work. And so you know, there's a few films that I've made with my friends more, I was going to say more recently, but in the past, like, I would say in the past 5 to 10 years, some of which have not been released, 2 of which are feature length. So, you know, kind of just still, I mean, and one of them has been in editing for 6 years. So we'll see.
Yeah.
My grandma said a bossy boss.
A bossy boss. Yeah, that's fair.
But yeah, so basically, I'm just always really drawn towards filmmaking and storytelling, and I consider myself a pretty good storyteller, whether it be through the medium of film or just talking to somebody, or writing. I love writing as well, but I've got like a million Google Drive screenplays that may never see the light of day. You know what I mean? So the passion is there, but the follow through is something else.
Mm.
But with
Right.
acting, I think I've been fairly successful, I would say, in pursuing my acting career. Have worked with some really incredible people, yourself included, that I'm just so grateful to have had the chance. So I know it's not over yet. My tea is boiling over, so just one second.
No. I mean, this is
Um,
perfect. You're spilling the tea. The tea's boiling over. We're just at the tip of the iceberg
exactly,
here.
exactly. It's a perfect metaphorical symbol right here. Okay. So I just feel like I've always been really drawn towards filmmaking
Yeah.
and storytelling regardless. And so when I get the chance to work with people like a director like Mike Mills or like Moira Wally Beckett, I jump at the opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
You know, let me just set you down for a second so I can pour myself some tea.
Yeah. Yeah. So you have had this passion. You are making these projects with your friends in the building. I mean, I also think that experience is one of the best teachers, especially within the film industry. And I think, like, we've harped on this a lot here, not harped, but tried to shout or share the fact that there is no one way into the industry. So what's
No.
the trajectory for you from like making these projects with your friends to then pursuing acting in a professional sense where you're going out for productions that you are not self-producing?
Yeah. Well, I would say it's not as much of a flip of a light switch between that, but I do think that there is just as much um, validity in making work that may never be appreciated
Mm.
versus work that is in the public eye, generally speaking.
Mm-hmm.
Some of the most incredible works that I've seen from other filmmakers have been stuff that's so underappreciated. So I don't think that there is any harm in putting what seems like might be too much energy as an artist into a project that may never see the light of day. And all those pieces of writing that I've done in Google Drive, it's formulated my style as an artist,
Yeah.
regardless of who sees it. And it reads when you do the work following that kind of energy you put into it. So I would say, if we're going to get logistical about it, after I was doing some community theater when I was about 11 or 12 years old, I was like, Mom, I really, really want to continue doing theater. I love acting. And so, she was very supportive in finding a audition in the area that was for a professional production of a theater production of Oliver Twist that I got cast in. And so that was my first professional production I ever did, was it with the Light Opera Works theater company in Chicago, and we performed at the Conn Theater at the Northwestern campus, and that was I got a taste for what it was like to live in the theater world, and I loved it. And so I was immediately like, oh my gosh, I need to keep auditioning for random things. So I went to an opening casting call for some Disney casting call or whatever. And the casting agent noticed me and she was like, yo, do you have an agent? And I was like, no. And she was like, okay, well, here's the best agent I know in Chicago. Hit her up. And so I started working with Panessa Talent Agency in Chicago, and they sort of started working with me on getting auditions for small things, and that ended up turning into Sense8 and Chicago Fire and things of that nature that we're shooting locally. Mm-hmm. And so as it progressed, after I did 20th Century Women, and this is solely acting work, whether or not I had an influence on the production side of it is besides the point, non-credited. I really do believe that everybody who has an effect on the film in front of the camera or behind it is like, it shows on camera whether you like it or not. So everyone is a producer in my eyes, if you know what I mean, no matter how small of a role you had. So I was just so fascinated with writing and directing and stuff still, and it was not hard for the people I was working with to see. So a lot of times, I think almost every project I've worked on, people have come to me and asked me, "Oh, like, what do you think? Like, what do you think we should do here? What's your approach to this?" And more recently, cinematographers who have seen some of my other stuff, have, at least in this most recent project I did, have been interested in my input, and I'm really grateful for that. That as passionate as I am, I'm not underappreciated as an artist, and because I know for a fact that there are so many more talented people than I am who may never get that kind of appreciation. And I really do think there's a level of fortune to this industry
Completely.
that you can't deny. That I am fortunate to have been born in a situation where I had supportive parents, and that there's so many factors that contribute to that. And so I don't deny the privilege that I have, but I do think that I do have a creative mind. I do have a creative eye. And so it shows. And so when I was approached for this recent project that I did, it's called No Address. The mission that they expressed to me was to try and authentically capture what it might be like for a ragtag family of homeless people living on the street in Sacramento. And it's something that I was not familiar with personally, but I was like, whoa, this could go two very extreme directions. It could be really, really good, or we could do something that isn't as authentic. And so to me, it was really important that I saw that we had some consultants involved that were either involved with the homeless community or have been homeless themselves. And as soon as they reassured me that I was like, we have some incredible people. Robert Marbit in particular, Robert Marbit Jr. He's just this genius consultant and expert in homelessness, and he consulted on 3 different presidential campaigns.
Wow!
Just absolutely, yeah, absolutely incredible guy. And he was our head executive producer and consultant on this project. And as soon as I heard he was involved, and straight up, I was just like, I have experiences of my own, not firsthand, but with friends of mine who are homeless in Chicago, particularly. And I think that some of that input, that understanding that I have, and the interviews that I've done with them can be influential to this project, as well as, just the other type of creative input that I had. And then the director, writer, Julia Verndon, who first reached out to me for this project, was very receptive to having me on board as a creative counterpart, as a sort of someone to bounce ideas off of, and so I worked with this team, Sally Forcier's production team, just incredible group of people. Couldn't have asked for a better production team. Incredible location scout. I mean, we just, those kind of projects that you work on, and there's just everyone at the head of the departments is just on the game, and you're just and for a low budget like that, man, I'm really grateful. I'm very, very grateful to have been involved, especially on the production side.
Well, like productions like that, when it is a lower budget, and you for some reason, I feel like creativity gets fostered even more because you're not answering to so many people who are making decisions. So you can be more collaborative, and when you're collaborative, the process just moves so much more seamless. And
that's a good point.
Well, then you also have you live in the concept of the best idea wins, which then allows you to have that unofficial executive producer credit where you are inputting some ideas or creativity because you feel like you're in a space where you can offer up an idea, you can offer a suggestion, because sometimes you are looking at a different discipline. And that's not to say for everybody to do this all the time, read the room. But when you aren't in a particular discipline, you can look at it in a different way. And so you might actually come up with a more creative, efficient idea because you're not inside of it, knowing all the nuances that go into that one particular job.
Yeah. No, that's very observant, and I think you're right. Read the room as an artist, but also I think that there's nothing wrong with spitting out bad ideas. I think every artist has to be comfortable, and every musician. I mean, do you listen to jazz? If you're improvising, the wrong note's going to come out every now and then, but you see what Miles Davis does with the wrong note? You know what I mean? With a bad idea, you can turn into something totally new and incredible.
Totally, yeah.
And so no one should be afraid to share bad ideas in a space like that. Yeah, read the room, and sort of make sure you're not offending people. But sometimes it's contextual, sometimes, you trying to be offensive. Sometimes the most crazy idea is what's going to work,
Totally. And you just have to, it's just the way that you deliver it. You can't be 10-year-old Lucas director ruining all your friendships in your building. You have to be the Lucas that you are now, being
Yeah.
like, hey, I've got
Yeah.
this idea that might work.
And listening to everybody else's ideas.
Yes.
Making sure that we all are on the same page about the fact that this is all of our work.
Well, and I think
And
that's
that,
also connected to what you were saying. Sorry to interrupt. What you were saying at the beginning about your creative process and all of these projects that you have on the Google Drive, or the works that you've been doing with your friends that aren't necessarily out. All of that is art that informs art. All of that is your 10,000 hours. All of that is creativity and play, and like you're just putting something out into the world. Whether the public sees it or not isn't necessarily the main goal. Yeah, it's nice when people have a good reception and, you know, they want to throw things your way. But at the same time, it just informs who you are as a storyteller. And when you have that attention to detail, when you go prepare for a project like you just did with the stories of the displaced people, you now have a more informed, nuanced opinion and perspective. And that reads on camera, even if you're still saying the same script that was given to you before you've done that research. Like it all adds up, and people feel that.
yeah, it all has an effect. Yeah, whether you like it or not, every conversation you have with somebody, every interaction you have, every project you've ever done, even on that large of a scale, is going to have at least a minute effect on your outlook.
Yeah.
And I think that outlook is the biggest changing factor in how you approach, you know, portraying a character, making a piece of artwork, painting, you know, writing a book. You might watch somebody's your favorite writer, you're going to watch over their whole life, their style's going to change. And I have a feeling that it has, because of not just the influences that are, you know, within their bubble. They, whether they like it or not, are affected by their world. And so everything you see, everything that you do, even if it's just in a repetitive practice of writing a crappy screenplay, you know, it's gonna have an effect. It's gonna have an effect, and you are going to forward yourself as a more experienced artist for that reason.
Yeah.
So don't be afraid to make mistakes, I think is the moral.
Well, what you just hit on something that I think is really important, especially for when people achieve what we call success, is this idea of trying to repeat that lightning in a bottle, where all of a sudden, like, you're not allowed to change, instead of being like, no, that process just continues.
Right.
Like you're saying it was luck. There's a combination of the right set of circumstances, talent, timing, whatever the relevance of the story for it to become a success. But that doesn't necessarily mean that you can repeat that afterwards. You got to be able to grow and allow yourself to change, because you want others to grow and change.
Exactly. It's a collaborative effort of growing and changing. Absolutely. And that's why I'm so grateful for all the creative and encouraging people that I know here on this planet. I mean, to be alive in this time where we can share our works regardless of how they might compare to others. And on a broader scale, everyone sort of has a bit of a platform. You know, I'm really grateful for that. Believe me, it comes with its pitfalls, because, you know, there's an anonymity aspect to it that might cause people to react to your work in ways that they might not normally, you know, and so that might break you down. But my only advice to every artist out there, if you have been receiving hate, is that you can't expect everybody to love it, and that there's no such thing as bad press, first of all. And it's lovely to hear feedback. Like, I don't care when people tell me they hate my work for this reason or that reason. It's like, oh, that's interesting that you have that perspective. It's true to them, you know, like their reception of it is 100% valid. And I would be upset if everyone sat down in the theater and got up after watching our movie without a different perspective, each one of them. You know, you can't expect everyone to get the same reaction, you know?
No. I mean,
so opening yourself up to criticism is scary, but I think it's necessary for the growth of any artist, really.
Well, completely. Well, and speaking of growth and speaking of change, you spent a lot of your formative years on camera. How did your professional life affect your personal life as you were going into some massive projects, while also like learning how to be a human being?
Yeah, exactly. No, that's a really good point. that I started young. I started professionally acting in film when I was 12 years old, and so I think it's very easy for people who have been involved with the industry from a young age to get lost, to not have a sense of self. I know a few people who've told me they experienced that,
Mhm.
and it's sad to a certain extent. Sometimes artists love losing themselves in their work. I respect that. I really do. Um, some of the best advice I ever got was from Annette Bening, who played my mother in 20th Century Women. And she said, Lucas, you've got to spend as much time, if not more, offset living your own life being Lucas than onset
Mhm.
pretending to be somebody else. And for that reason, I believe that it brings a level of authenticity to my work, that there is a realism to my recreation of emotions because I've actually experienced those things. So I made a point after she said that of stepping away and taking time. And before I did this film, No Address, I hadn't worked in over 3 years in the film industry. And I had, in that time, decided I wanted to learn to fly. I wanted to diversify my skills.
Mhm.
Something that's very important to me is that I am capable of doing as many things as I can before I die. I want to use these hands to build things as best I can to
Yeah.
infect my environment. I don't think I have a shortage of desire to diversify my skills. So that's good. I think that not everybody has that urge.
Yeah.
But I don't think that there's anything wrong with being extremely dedicated to your craft, even from a young age, from a formative age. Um, but I do think that you can't get lost in your work. You have to remember your sense of self and center, and ground yourself every now and then. So meditation is huge.
Mhm.
Meditation is very helpful in being aware of what is really here, what is really now. Mindfulness is key to me
Mhm.
in maintaining a sort of humble attitude to my own career, because it's all too easy for me to create self-criticism and to overanalyze if I let myself get a,
Mhm.
get a get ahead of my own self. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? So I think that's a result of having started at such a young age, is that I'm critical of my own work, and that I'm making sure now that I do spend as much time, if not more, offset,
Mhm.
learning about me, seeing myself in new situations as I would exploring a character. You know,
Well,
I
you're
am a
playing
character
human
in the other.
beings. So you got
Yes,
to be a human being. You have to know how to be a human being. You can't just be an actor. You just can't be a a person who tells other people's stories. You have to know what your own story is too.
right. Because then you'll be able to tell other people's stories with truth.
Yeah.
You know,
Hmm.
um, and that's something like this was a huge leap for me, trying to portray a character whose life I could not personally relate so heavily to. My character Jimmy, um, was is homeless by choice to a certain extent, because he had trouble at home with his parents, and so he tried to get his mother to, come away with him and sort of heal and create his own family. But it ended up being that he has to build his own family, and his necessity to be relied on and to rely on others, and having that sense of family is key to him. So he goes out searching for that in people that he isn't biologically related to, and that's something that I can relate to. So I tried to find little bits in this character after learning about him from an objective perspective that I could relate to personally. Therefore, I could bridge gaps in my mind between my life and Jimmy's,
Hmm.
and then I could bring a level of truth to the facial expressions and the way that he's feeling and how he reacts, so that when I'm being Jimmy, I can go into the scene and whatever someone says, if it's an improvisation, I can, with truth, bring Jimmy to it, and because of how well I can relate myself.
Hmm.
And I would not have been able to do that if I didn't go out and have my own experiences and grow myself.
Yeah. Well, it's the difference between chasing art and chasing fame. You're
Mm.
developing and expanding your empathy versus just trying to expand your following. And I think you can really it's easy to see that between the two when you are in a place, when you're in this industry. I feel like there's a fine line between objectives and motives between the people who enter this industry.
Yeah. No, I think you're right. I do think that there's something valid though and something very human about seeking attention, of wanting that following, of being part of the industry because you like the attention.
Mhm.
That's something that is just as human. Um, I personally am not attracted to that in myself. There is a part of me, I acknowledge, that that does like attention. I think we all have a little part of
Right.
ourselves that likes appreciation and attention,
Yeah.
and I can't deny that part of myself. If I were to try and suppress that part of myself, it would have control over me. And I think because I embrace it,
Mhm.
I'm able to sort of go about with an approach of like, oh, someone appreciated my work. That's great. As a fellow artist, thank you. You know,
Mhm.
and that's a different level of desire for attention as opposed to mindless likes on Instagram. There's got
Well,
to be something behind the like.
yes.
You know, like why? Tell me, give me some criticism. You know, I enjoy criticism as much as I enjoy the compliments.
Yeah,
I
well,
do.
we are
Um,
nuanced people and we can have the capacity for both. But it's like, what is our main intention when entering a project? Well, but also speaking of inherently natural large followings, obviously the following of the show that we met on has the most beloved fandom. And once again, thank you all. Why don't you tell me what your first introduction was to the world of Green Gables? Had you been familiar with the story prior to
oh,
the audition? What was your first
yeah.
step?
Yeah. So the first introduction was probably my upstairs neighbor, Olivia Chambers, who, well, I did just drop her whole name, but her name was Olivia, and she loved the series so much, or she loved the book so much, the book series, and she would. I never read the whole books myself at that point. I was just hearing about it through her, right? So she would tell me, she would like find excerpts, like she would take little of her favorite parts and she would read them out loud to me. And so that was my first introduction to Anne of Green Gables. Um, and I, to this day, have never been to Prince Edward Island.
Damn.
So, so I can't say that I have that level of affiliation,
Mm.
unfortunately. But as you know, there were, I think, maybe some tax issues or something, or there was maybe a tax credit that wasn't offered in Prince Edward Island that meant that we had to shoot in Ontario
Yeah,
instead.
yeah.
Um,
I think it just would have been more
whatever it
expensive to
was.
fly everybody out. Whatever
But
it was.
I
Yeah.
hate to spoil anybody's enjoyment of it, but yeah, most of the shots were shot in Ontario. So that's a level that I don't have an association with Anne of Green Gables. But from what I understand, she was a fictional character based on a lot of real characters, right? Um, so I don't think that there's necessarily a harm, and you could say that there could have existed an Anne in
Mm.
Toronto. So
Yeah.
who knows?
Yeah. There's an
Who
Anne in
knows?
all of us.
Mm, exactly. I think that's why people might enjoy if they sit down and they relate to the character so much, then they can enjoy that.
Yeah. Do you
Um,
remember what your first day on set was like? Do you remember what scene you were doing and how that day was?
I don't remember what scene it was exactly. I know for a fact it was in the
Yeah.
schoolhouse where we all came in, and I remember looking around and being like, oh, it felt like the first day of school. It really did,
Yeah.
because no one knew each other. We were all just kind of like getting to know, and then like, okay, well, where are we going from here? Who's leading this? Who's gonna tell us what to go where? And like, it felt like the first day of school, even though it was, a film set and we were all acting. Because the first time I saw a lot of these people was actually in wardrobe. So
Mm.
sometimes it was like my only association with them until we started hanging out after we shot was like, oh, you're from the 1800s. Oh, okay. Like,
Yeah.
like, oh, you have a mustache. Like, like I remember the first time seeing you without your mustache was like, whoa.
Who's that?
Yeah, who is that man? What?
And so then, like, obviously, this was such a big informative experience. I mean, I'm assuming because it was for me. But what would you say, like, throughout that process, was your most challenging scene to shoot, or what was one of your biggest like obstacles that you went through?
On the show?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You had some pretty
Um,
heavy stuff.
yeah, that last season, and so losing his father and losing Mary, I think those were huge moments.
Hmm.
Um, I think some of the most heartfelt moments that I had on when we were shooting, I think, was with Sebastian, working with Delmar, and some of the scenes that me, him, and Kara had together. Just it hit my heart because I remember those were scenes that Anne, the director, Anne, wanted to focus. We spent a whole week rehearsing those scenes. That was the only time that we ever did that for the entire show,
Mm.
for me anyway, where we spent a whole week rehearsing those scenes because of how emotionally just back and forth it was all just. I mean, we were like a little family.
Hmm.
Talk about a family of people who kind of were formed out of necessity and sort of out of a love despite their non-biological
Yeah,
affiliation.
chosen
Um,
family.
it was really heavy. And there were, because I feel like I was able to sort of from the very beginning develop my relationship as Gilbert to Anne.
Hmm.
So that was something that was a little bit easier for me to pull off, I think, because I had already given it so much thought and consideration. But reading the third season, and then it came sort of as a surprise to me, all these emotions that Gilbert had to go through. All of a sudden, I was like, oh, wow, this is going to be heavy stuff. It was like
Hmm.
1 week of shooting where we had like the heaviest, where Gilbert was like watching her suffer of sepsis right in front of him,
Yeah,
and that's something that was probably one of the heaviest moments in the show for me.
totally. Well, I think that's one of the
Mhm.
heaviest moments for everybody. And this was one of your first experiences where you were playing a character like repetitively. You were coming back and revisiting it. It wasn't like a
Right.
film that just stopped. What was that like for you to investigate meeting this character again as they grew and they changed, as you grew and you changed from season to season?
Well, I'm really grateful that Gilbert was one of those characters that I did have a lot of places where I could relate
Mm.
to his life, where I felt like his outlook and his desires to travel and be worldly and just to have an open-minded perspective about people and trust that
Mm.
there's good in everyone. I totally relate to that. And I think that a lot of times the Gilbert in me is taken advantage of by real people who are cruel.
Mm.
Because the world is not as kind as you might want it to be. Um, so I had to sort of deal with that over the years, and I think from the years I was 14, 15, or it was like 15, 16, and 17 that we were shooting
Yeah.
those, or I think it
Yeah.
was 14, 15, and 16, whatever it was. My ages for when we were shooting the 3 seasons. Over those years, you might see that progression in lack of trust for individuals, and still trying to maintain this outlook of there's that trying to see the best in everyone,
Yeah.
and that's something that I think was very present in me during that time of my life. For sure, was realizing that I needed to fend for myself.
Mm.
Yeah.
Hmm. The the like there's such an interesting point that you make because the character also has to fend for himself. Like you are a part of the community for so long, and then your character goes on a completely separate journey from what is
Yeah.
in the traditional book, and then at the same time you are having a singular experience. Like there is the character of Gilbert for the most part is tied to Anne in the books, and then this interpretation that Moira made allows
Yeah.
Gilbert to fly into his own identity. And it was obviously, it's like that was new territory because it was new material at the same time.
Definitely was, for sure. I love that Moira wrote in between the pages so
Yeah.
much. There were, especially if we're talking about that, the relation between the locals and the indigenous people
Yeah.
of Canada. That's something that wasn't really focused on during the books very much, but it was there during that time. That was very present, and the character of Coquette and all of these. I mean, and then the reform schools. That was all very present, and I'm so grateful for that kind of grit that Moira Wally Beckett added to the series.
Completely, because it's like everything was happening historically at that time, but just people weren't writing about it. So,
Off camera, yeah, and to be completely blunt, the white people weren't thinking about it. They
no.
didn't care, and
Well,
so that's part of it.
well, and using the vehicle of something that is so beloved to then also shed light on is it just like using your platform as a message. Like that is the beauty of having built such a large audience to then be like, okay, now let's tell something that matters.
Introduce an idea that might be a little bit hard for you to swallow now that you've taken the sugar, you know.
Yeah.
And so I'm really grateful that she did that, because you know you didn't have to. There was a whole story there just in the books that she could have turned into a screenplay, but she chose to go above and beyond and add some authenticity to the time period.
Completely. So what would you say was one of your most proud moments or favorite things to have shot or experienced throughout that production?
You know, it's so funny because over the 3 years that we were, with the 3 seasons that we were shooting those, I feel like I did all little projects in between too, and so sometimes I have a memory that comes up that's like, oh my God, I forgot that we shot I forgot the whole carnival scene. Like, whoa, the amount of energy and time that the set deck put into building a whole carnival in just the middle of a random field someplace, so that by the time we show up, it was like already there. That's crazy. That blew my mind. But I don't know. To answer your question, uh, like what was the most profound? Like what was the most
Yeah, interpret it in the way that you want, but like what moment were you most proud of? Like that you can think of.
Okay, I got
Or
you.
your favorite scene, depending on which
Well,
director.
I was very grateful to be associated with the project when she was writing in between the pages like that, and she introduced the indigenous people of the area, because that was something that I was kind of a little bit originally upset about not being approached as a topic of conversation. So that was, I'm really proud to be part of a project that sort of went out of its way to bring that level of authenticity. Yeah.
I mean, we all want to be a part of stories that mean something, that matter, that tell something more. So, and you couldn't have asked to have been a part of a better project when it comes to that.
No, you're right.
So, thinking about all of that, what would you say was your greatest takeaway from that experience?
From Anne in particular.
Yeah.
I think my greatest takeaway was that I think working on a series is compatible with my style of acting, because, or my style of working with anybody, because, well, I love working in the restaurant industry and in places where you get to work with the same people over and over again, and you develop a chemistry, and you start working like a well-oiled machine by the end of it, you know? And I just really miss a lot of people that I worked on projects that were just like a few months long, and then like I never see them again, or you know, you cross paths again in the future, but like, you know, there's just too many occasions where it's like. So my biggest takeaway, because like you said, that was the first time I had been on a show reoccurring for more than one season, was that I think that that's very compatible with my style of art. Is that I love learning how to work with the same people again, and that I remember working with the people on Anne, and it just being, I'm talking about the grips in particularly, and the lighting crew, and the rhythm that they had, and the way that the camera people would work around it. And I remember one particular shot where we were in Sebastian's house, and there was a Steadicam shot through the whole way, and everybody was like, sort of like, it was like the Red Sea was parting for the Steadicam, right? But everybody knew when the camera was going to be there, and like what approach and what angle, because they knew the dude. Even though they were doing it different every time, it was like we could read each other's body language.
Right.
And there was like little moments where we would like, I would swap places with one of the grips so that I could get in there just in time. And for me, it gets very technical. The reason why I appreciate working with people. It's very technical, because yes, there's some fantastic artists out there, but if you don't have the tools and the grounding to sort of to bring that in there in a seamless way, then it can be very challenging to work with other people. So knowing your own style, knowing just exactly how you work with other people and the chemistry between you is huge.
Well, and the chemistry on that set was particularly special. And
Absolutely.
what you're saying too, just you when you have that working rapport and that understanding of how you work as a creative and how I work as a creative, you're not in the friction of the dance of formality being like, how do you do this? How are we going to achieve this together? Because there's just the inherent knowledge of this is how we work together. And then you can just start working as opposed to the figuring out process of how you work
Exactly.
with someone. And then that chemistry is inherently there, and you can just take the scene or take the day or take the shooting schedule
Yeah.
to a whole different level because it's established.
No, you're right. I think it's less inherent though. I think that you have to develop it with some people,
Mm.
and that's why the time factor is huge.
Yeah.
But you're so right. Is that does make it so much easier to be authentic and honest. And when you're going, it makes it so much easier to be like, oh, I remember you from last year, bro. Let's just do this thing, like,
Yeah.
yeah. And that made me, I don't know, that made me really comfortable being
Mm-hmm.
vulnerable because there were a lot of scenes that you have to get vulnerable. And I've also done projects where I've only had a few days at max with people to get vulnerable in front of them, and it's a lot harder.
Yeah, it really is.
It doesn't mean you can't. It doesn't mean you can't, but you know.
Well, I mean, vulnerable in a myriad of ways. Like the vulnerable in having to be going to places that are heavy emotionally, but then also vulnerable in the sense of like making offers. Because I totally felt that in the beginning.
Oh yeah.
Coming on a set, not knowing how to like play what's allowed. Like, am
How
I?
much input can
Yeah.
Steven give? Right. Exactly.
You're like, I'm just trying to get it right, and then all of a sudden you're like, no, I know what I'm doing. I'm just gonna like, throw this at a student because that's what I want to do right now, as opposed to like trying to make sure that everything is perfect. But that vulnerability of play also, like we were saying earlier, just allows for a more well-rounded, fruitful world of characters being real people.
No, you're so right. That couldn't have put it better. That's yeah, building that world is sort of dependent on your vulnerability. Being
Yeah.
able to share with other people is like you have to be comfortable being open and like, because especially when it's about emotions, sometimes there's a scene where you're gonna have to be portraying emotions you're not comfortable with in yourself, right?
Yeah.
And so removing yourself from it isn't gonna bring authenticity.
No.
The best way to do it is to be in an environment or be fortunate enough to already be in an environment where the people and the place that you're in is comfortable to you. It's about set and setting,
Yes. Yes.
100%.
And that is such a challenge for an actor going project to project.
Yeah.
And you are having to be vulnerable in every single one. But also finding that comfort within yourself to allow yourself to be that vulnerable. Like that is a skill that I don't think people really talk about, especially when you're thinking about education. That's not a dissected topic.
No, you're right. That's not touched on enough, I don't think. Because, well, maybe at least in the industry, it is sort of expected of you to do your best, like first 2 takes, like, because, like,
Time is money.
what does an actor do? What? He laughs, he cries, like what? But it's not that simple, It's not. Yeah, right. Yeah. No, I think one thing as hard of a director as I was on them, I do feel like I had an understanding that I wasn't just going to make them cry by yelling at them. They had to do it for themselves.
This is the sad scene. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Hey, this is a sad scene. So if you need me to, be an asshole.
Yeah. Well, thinking about that and thinking about where you are now and this creative process that you're on and this new journey and this new phase of life, what would be your ideal situation, like creatively? Is there a story that you're working on? Is there a story that hasn't been told that you'd be a part of? And what capacity would you be doing it? Would you be doing it as a director, writer? Would it be a series? Like, where's your dream? Where's the trajectory going?
To a certain extent, I think it's hard to anticipate those. Every now and then a project comes along that's like, whoa, really captures my attention. And I had no idea that I even had interest in that. This recent one I did, No Address, is different than that because I was already interested in bringing awareness to the homeless issue. So something of that nature. Another thing that I'm very passionate about is reducing my own waste and humans being conscious of
Yes.
the carbon and the waste that they are
Yeah.
producing. So that's something that's really huge to me. I think if there was going to be a single thing that I was going to put a pin in there and say I need to address this, it's
Mm-hmm.
going to be the climate issue
Mm-hmm.
that's caused by human consumption of factory farming and the issues that we cause with a lot of agricultural stuff. Humans are a little bit selfish, if you haven't noticed in your time here on this planet. Yeah, no, what are you talking about? Just a little bit.
Yeah.
We tend to take advantage of ourselves, of other people, and our environment.
Yeah.
And I think that if I were to try and bring awareness to anything else in a future project, it would be that.
Mm.
I do think that I'm going to continue to try and work in the capacity as a producer. I love to direct. I love to act as well. But I think that I have an affinity for all different sides of this
Mm-hmm.
industry. So it's hard to say.
Mm. Well, no, I think that's great. I'm a firm believer in that. Speak it so that it can manifest and come true. And it's like,
Yeah.
you becoming a producer in an actual credited aspect rather than just you're a self-accredited producer from
Oh,
sharing ideas on set.
I am accredited
I'm
producer.
just,
Don't forget.
I'm just teasing.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I think that's wonderful, and you're obviously such a deep lover of this industry and a deep lover of the art form, and using your ability to tell stories to share greater messages that can have an impact. Like, what higher calling can you have when it comes to this industry?
Right, exactly. I'm really, really grateful to be able to share my creative instincts like that because I know many people who are very strong creatives, and I do feel like a lot of artists go underappreciated.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I think it has nothing to do with skill. I think it has nothing to, like I said, I don't believe in luck, but I do believe that there's fortune involved.
Yes, yes. Well, and then artists in many capacity. I mean, like, let's look at the writer's strike right now and how
Exactly.
minimum wage.
Well, thank goodness for people being in a band of other people like writers like that to feel confident enough to say, hey, we're not going to stand for this type of treatment.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Good on them. Good on them.
Well, and then also to have the other areas of the industry support them too, because we're all affected
Exactly.
by this. And
Exactly.
we're all in a new negotiation because we're just got new technology. So we have to like readjust where we're at with how the structure works.
But humans, I have faith in us because humans are very good at adapting. So I think everyone else is going to kind of find a way to be like, okay, these people need to be treated better. These people need to be paid better. And then we all adapt to kind of accommodate the fact that some people in our society aren't being compensated well enough for their time and their energy.
Yeah.
And I'm not just talking about the film industry. No. I'm specifically in my mind, I'm thinking about the educational system and the teachers being completely underpaid. It makes me very sad because there is nothing more important than the education of our youth. When it comes down to that, it's really difficult to watch people put their heart and soul into informing the youth in ways that are unbiased and accurate to global issues, and then not being well compensated, not being able to not work a summer job or to feed their families the way they should. It's really hard to see, but I think that we're moving in the right direction in some aspects, but we still got a long way to go.
Well, as a former on-camera teacher with no qualifications, that really speaks to me, and I feel very affected by that quote. So,
yep. So you know exactly what it's like, don't you?
I do.
God, there was not even a teachers union in the 1890s. No. So I mean,
no. let alone talking about like a GLAD union for.
Oh my God.
Schoolhouse teachers.
That's so funny. There might have been a teachers union, but I want to preface again. I don't know for sure about that, but
look it up. Look it up.
I'm interested now. Obviously they weren't paid enough though.
Yeah.
Considering how those kids were acting. I
Completely.
mean, come on.
And judging by the fact that I had one suit, they weren't paid enough. But you know what? Maybe he was spending it all on mustache wax.
That's what it was. That's what
Yes,
it was.
that's what it was. As we're getting closer to the end of our time here, I would love, because I promised, to throw some audience questions your way.
Yeah, absolutely.
If you wanna answer these bad boys. The first one being, if you couldn't have played Gilbert, what character in Anne with an E would you have played or want to play?
Would I have wanted to play?
Yeah.
That's interesting. I actually never thought about that. I'm gonna say Delphine. The baby. She got it easy, bro. She got it easy. She gets to lie there and just like, wah. Delphine.
I mean, that might actually be the hardest because, like, the babies live at
Absolutely.
10 or 0. You know?
Absolutely. Oh my God, there was one time. I mean, I hate to like get carried away with this, but where we just had like we just had the baby sitting there for a while and waited for it to cry so that we could have the shot of the baby crying. And they were like, wait, holding off the mother, like, wait, no, don't go in yet, don't go in yet. Wait, hold on. 5 more seconds. Like, I was like, oh my God, the poor baby. She honestly had a harder job than we all did. She's traumatized.
Yeah.
I can't even.
That baby's gonna remember being like, I don't know why, but
Just to reiterate, the union was entirely complied with during that process. Don't worry.
It's also babies cry all the time.
That's what they do.
It's what they do best. It's how they actually communicate. What would you have wanted to happen to Gilbert had there been a season 4?
I would like to have seen him actually become a doctor. I'd like to see him actually fulfill his prior dreams and start working the profession of his choice. Because I know that was something he was really passionate about, and he didn't get a chance to really like do an adult life yet on the series. Yeah. So after bringing all that worldliness into, becoming more emotionally mature and realizing what he wanted with his relationship with Anne and stuff like that, I wanted to see him progress into a career of like what we wanted to do. But
I love that.
Hey, that's what the books are for, right?
Totally.
They season 4.
What memory, on or off camera, from Anne do you remember the most?
I had so many long car rides with Delmar. We had like so many deep combos. Honestly, me and Delmar had some deep conversations that I miss so many of the people. I mean, I made friends with just about everybody that we worked with, and it was just like, I miss them all. I do. So I think the most profound. Okay, here it is. Yeah. Here's what I was thinking about literally just yesterday.
Yeah.
Leah, when she did her show, when she did her music performance, we all went and saw her, and I was like blown away by this hidden musical talent that she had. So I mean, that sticks with me for sure.
So good.
Yeah.
I'm sure she'd be happy to hear that. Shout out to Leah.
Shout out to Leah.
Yeah. How are you, honestly? How are you?
Period. How am I honestly?
How are you?
Oh, how am I honestly? Yeah. I'm pretty good right now. Currently, I am traveling back from Sacramento very slowly from where I was just shooting that film. And I am traveling with my house right now that I finished only 4 months ago. Mm-hmm. But I've been living here full time, and I'm really, really enjoying it. It's very, very peaceful. And I spent about 2 weeks in the national park, South Dakota, the Badlands. Oh, wow. And it was just so lovely just to decompress and relax and just meditate, exercise, eat good, and just like I'm back into taking care of Lucas right now, and I'm really sort of just focused on my well-being. So I would say that I am optimistic about that.
Beautiful. Sure. Louise Ververt wants to know, what's a quote you love or that reminds you reminds you of yourself or centers you in yourself? I'm assuming what they want to say almost every day, like mantra. Do you have a mantra when you're meditating?
So the type of meditation that I practice, so these are 2 different questions now, but I'll answer the latter first. the type of meditation that I practice is called Vipassana. It's a Buddhist meditation that's very centered on trying to find that space between your thoughts, not assigning a negative or a positive connotation to anything, and sort of finding peace in being, feeling. And so bringing awareness to your breath, bringing awareness to your surroundings, the way that the air feels on your skin, the contact points that you have with the ground when you're sitting there, and just objectively feeling. And there is no mantra that I use personally, but I know that that's not the same for everybody who practices meditation. And there's a million valid ways to practice. The first question that they asked was, is there a phrase or a quote that really gets me, that encompasses my being? And I really do think that Neil deGrasse Tyson said it best. The universe has no obligation to make sense to you.
Ooh.
So any sense that you make of your universe, anything that you think you know enough about to think you're right, is it's really impressive to know that human beings can come to a point where they can understand enough about their universe to think that that we know. But we are all still open-minded to realizing that we're not always correct. And with this new discovery from the James Webb Telescope, we're looking back 13 billion years, right? Almost. Which is almost the beginning of the universe, we thought. We thought the universe was only 13.8 billion years old, but we're seeing fully formed galaxies much larger than the Milky Way 12 billion years ago, which means that the universe is so much older than we thought it was. So that is super exciting. But again, the universe has no obligation to make sense to us. So I don't think that there's any single book, there's any single human being alive who has ever figured it out. And we're all in this together. Everyone's feelings are valid. Whether you believe in a God or not is your truth. And I personally believe that any understanding we have of our universe and its creation is remarkable, because we were never, from an evolutionary standpoint, designed to comprehend the complexities of our universe. And so for us to sit here and do experiments to the level that we can think we understand it is remarkable. Humans are incredible. But we have to remember that anything we know wasn't an obligation for the universe to reveal to us. We have to puzzle piece it all together ourselves.
Two things. Number one, also fantastic mustache. And then number two, the Neil deGrasse Tyson. And the
for sure.
the things that remind us that we are insignificant make us significant. So just like the universe is bigger than us, nature is bigger than us, and we are just a small part of it, and we are an important part of it, but we are not all of it. And like remembering that too is what I got out of that.
But don't lose the identity with the universe there. Like you said, we are part of it. What we're mostly made of, the elements in our body, okay? So oxygen, nitrogen, hydrogen, and carbon. Those can only be formed in stars, right? Me and you, everyone who's watching this right now, everything that you hold dear, everyone, we were all once in the same star together. All of us. We were all once a star. We are all star stuff, okay? That star went supernova and it enriched this part of the galaxy, and Earth was formed, and we all are little amalgamations of energy and life, and it's beautiful. Feeling small in comparison to the universe makes me feel one with it. I know that I am just as much a part of it as any other bit, and there is no point comparing yourself, because we all have this identity. Every artist who presents themselves out there is sort of an archetype of everyone's human condition.
We were star roommates is really what you were saying. That's what I got out of that.
We are star roommates, buddy. So cheers to that. We're star stuff, man.
Well, we're getting to the end of our time. I've got two final questions for you. The first being, looking back at either 10-year-old Lucas or your first time in Oliver, or your first time on a major set, what piece of advice would you give your younger self?
Take my time. I got very few chances to just be a child, I feel like. Well, I would say up until I started working, I had a really nice childhood, and I had a lot of friends my age that were just lovely, and I feel like I spent a lot of my teen and high school years, um, sort of adulting,
Mm.
and so I was pretty much entirely independent by the age 17. I wish that I had taken more time because I'm a freaking old man, dude. Like right now, man, like my ideal evening is like drinking tea and playing chess, and like most of my friends are like 2 to 3 times my age.
I
Like
love that.
I needed to slow down,
Yeah.
man. I'm grateful for where I am right now.
Yeah.
I've gotten to do a lot with my life so far, but I still think that I could have embraced my innocence, my childhood a little bit more.
Mm. Mm. Well, I mean, first of all, that actually sounds like an amazing evening, even if you're like a Pixar
Oh
short
yeah,
film.
man.
But
A little wine and cheese, like come on.
a charcuterie.
Cook a nice little meal.
Yeah, having
Come on.
a little spread in front of you, that sounds like a divine time. But
Seriously.
I mean, I think that message applies to a lot of people, just in the sense of things will change and go by, so enjoy them while they are there. Like
Yeah.
even the connection of everybody on the show, your connection to your childhood, your like, just enjoy it while it's there. And I know we say that all the time about things, about everything, but if we actually look at the grand scheme and we look at the history of the universe, we are here for such a tiny blip on its world calendar. So
Yeah. No, you're so right. I think you said it very good that it's we should enjoy it while it lasts. And I think the best philosophy that I like to use to approach this is sort of the Marcus Aurelius Stoicism vibe. He says basically everything that happens to us, everything we have in our life, we owe to circumstance. And so once circumstance can give it to us, and another time circumstance will take it away. And that we own nothing. That circumstance is sort of everything that we have, everything that belongs to us is really belonging to the circumstance.
Yeah.
And if you consider yourself part of that, then you can go with that flow and feel comfortable losing physical things. You can feel comfortable losing people.
Mm-hmm.
It's very hard to face as a human being with emotions because stoicism is inherently, if you ask me, just inhuman. But I think it's a great philosophy to look up to and be like, wow, yeah, that's a great perspective. The fact that you own nothing, and that sort of follows in line with this Buddhist belief too of reminding yourself of your oneness and returning to your breath, because your breathing is something you will always have while you're alive. That's a tool that can always be there to comfort you. So that's my favorite tool for meditation for that reason, because it'll always be there with you.
That's very well said, and thank you for sharing that. I really appreciate it. You've given me some good tidbits to walk away with and beautiful reminders.
I'm glad.
The final thing that we like to end on here and is what we call the ask. We are community-driven creatures. We are most likely willing to help each other out, but we don't always know how. So since we've gathered a group of people here today to learn about you, your mind, your journey, your artistry, what would be the best way for this community to champion and support you? Would it be checking out a particular project? Would it be following a particular meditation? Would it be, helping you develop one of your projects that you've been working on? What would be the best way?
My ask for anyone who is interested in accepting this mission is to spend a day off social media focusing on yourself. And just remind yourself of truly what is there in life to experience without feeling the need to accept others or be accepted by others. So it's not, I would say that it is just as much for me as it is for them, because I identify with the human race. I identify with people, and this whole generation, I think, could use a reminder to take a step back and focus on you. Like you are important. To you. And sometimes the best thing you can do for other people is to internalize to focus on yourself and ask yourself, what's true to me? What's
Yes.
my real?
Yeah. Well, what you gotta fill your cup. You gotta make sure that yours is plenty. Because if you don't have anything to give, then there's no point in giving. Because you're not really giving.
It's true. Yeah, selflessness is great to a certain extent,
Yes.
believe me. But I've been walked all over before because of that. Because I am so giving, and because I tend to spend a lot of my energy sometimes on other people. And it took me quite a few years to realize that I needed to take a step back, and that the best thing I could do for me and for everybody who loves me is to focus on me and get better, get stronger, get healthier.
Yeah.
And,
Yes.
yeah.
Look at you. You need your own TED Talk soapbox. Like this is a soapbox. Is that what they call it? A milk.
Yeah, yeah.
Whatever it is. I want to continue to use your platform for good. Thank you.
Here's my soapbox right now. Just get up on that.
Beautiful. Well, thank you so much for this, Lucas. Not only was it like personally gratifying to get to see you thriving, get to see you being the best old man that you can be, and sharing that gorgeous soul of yours with the world, but it's been so lovely getting to catch up, and I deeply hope that there's an opportunity for us to do so together in the future.
Yes, dude. Oh, it's gonna have to happen.
Yeah. I want to see this home of yours.
Hey, I mean, I don't know how much time you got, but I can give you a tour if you want. It's not huge.
Oh my God, give us a tour. That would be great. Do it.
Hell yeah, man. I don't know if you're on a time allotment or something like that, but I'll give you a little tour, man. Let me just put my tea down. Nah, dude. So right now, I'm chilling in Minnesota at a rest stop because there was some crazy winds on my route. So I took a little hiatus. So we'll start over here.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
We got the. I wonder if I can. Oh, I can't. Oh, I can.
Yeah.
Okay. So I got the front door here. I put my shoes there. This is my little living space. Okay. This is where I've been chilling. Okay. Some of my favorite artists' works. Okay. Moving into the kitchen here now. We got like a full kitchen. Okay. I got an induction burner. Okay. Got my spices. Got a full kitchen sink there. Full refrigerator. Across the way here, we got a little bathroom here, and I got my incinerating toilet. And a full shower, which I love this thing.
Oh,
I wish you could smell the place,
man. It gets rid of all of the junk. Like it just burns it up.
Basically, all the biomatter is turned into this little bit of ash, and it comes out. There's like a little bit of an ashtray at the end of the month. I empty it out. It's all sterile ash, and you can use it as fertilizer. And it's completely sterile. And after a month of me and all my friends using it, it's like nothing left. It's much better for the environment, based on water consumption. Yes. And the only argument that people have is, oh, you use a ton of power to do it, but I'm 100% off the grid solar. So all the power that I'm using for this is generated on sunlight. So there's that. Water, all my water is heated by sunlight as well. And again, I wish you could smell this place because it's all pine and cedar, and so it just smells incredible here.
I bet.
But yeah, now moving up into my other living space because I got like 2 living rooms and a little library up here.
Oh, nice!
So this is my little library up here. I'm gonna do like a little cozy corner where I can like chill and read my books and stuff like that. I got my whole solar setup right here. Right now, my batteries are charging from the sun, and now you can see I'm just at a rest stop.
Damn.
Yeah. So if I open the door here, you can see. Sort of where I'm at. Yeah.
Wow. And you're like so good at driving it now too. And you have a lot.
I have gotten very good. I've done over 2,000 miles in it now. So that's good.
You've got stairs.
So this is my sleeping loft, right?
Oh,
this is where I sleep. It's pretty chill, and I keep my clothes for this season right here.
Yeah.
But I've got like clothes for other seasons are vacuum sealed in my storage. But this is and I got another little storage loft over there for my camera gear, telescope gear, and stuff like that. But it's very, very comfortable here, man. I'm not gonna lie.
It looks so damn cozy.
Yeah. Like I said, I've been living here for about 4 months now, and I love it. I really do.
Well, it also looks
and I'm
like
trying
you probably have more real estate than any apartment in New York City, and you're probably living at a fraction of the cost, a fraction of the ecological footprint, obviously.
That too. I have no bills whatsoever, and I feel like I have more space here than I did in my almost 1,000 square foot apartment in Chicago, which is not big by any means. That's a normal size apartment that I was sharing, and it was like, this is less than that by much, but it's definitely feels like more space for somehow, because it's just the way I organize it all. Like, I just feel like it's just the layout, the lofts, I think, help a whole lot.
Yeah.
And I got 3 of these lofts here, so
It's so good.
it's thank you, sir.
It's so good. I obsessed, love it, and I just love like you were saying about the smell. I just love the look of it too. The wood everywhere is just so sleek.
It is very pretty. So this is a blue pine. There's a story behind this. This is blue pine, and the reason why it's got this blue color, this blue tone, is because there's these beetles that infest it, right? And these the tree creates this sap in order to kill them off, and it creates this beautiful, like, it dyes the wood in this really beautiful way. And you can actually, I'll show you some places, you can actually see where the beetles were eating through the wood, and I love it because it just tells a story. You know, you can see all these little points where the beetles were eating through it, and even like on this little trim piece that I have here, there's like, this is where tiny beetles were eating, like baby beetles. So yeah, it's like living inside of a tree. Well, really, it's like living in a forest, because my floor is bamboo and the walls are trees. So it's like grass on the ground and trees on the sides there. So it's basically like I'm living in a forest.
I mean, I didn't even know this.
A forest with a kitchen and a bathroom. But, you know, I got running water, and, you know, and I'm just at a freaking random rest station right here right now. So, I mean, you get the idea. I can be wherever I want to be with things. Like, so I've literally just been taking my time. This is the best road trip I've ever done, because I have not gone grocery shopping. I've been stocked up. I just, like, don't need to stop anywhere. And if I do, it's because of weather and or just because I want to chill.
Yeah.
And I can just get off the road, cook a meal, take a hot shower, and go up and sleep.
You've got no time limit. You can go wherever you want, see whoever you want, not see anyone. Like, solitude is important to me, for sure. What is your destination? Like, where are you? Do you have somewhere in mind that you're gonna go? Are you gonna go to Chicago? Did you say that?
Yeah, I'm headed back towards Chicago right now. I'm going to, like, park it in some parking lot and have some friends and family over for a dinner. And then I'm going to drive it back to another place in Illinois called Galena, where I will be living in it for a while, maybe Airbnb it out. I love living in it myself, so it's going to be a while before I can let anybody else have it for rental or something like that. But eventually there's a huge market for people wanting to try out the lifestyle, and I'm very, very passionate about sharing the idea of living in more of harmony with your environment, producing less waste. So my waste right now is very, very minimal. And so I'm very excited to share more about my journey here, reducing my carbon footprint and being conscious of my effect, and traveling as well, considering the fact that I am burning fuel to make this trip. But I've done the math, and I'm going to be sharing a video with people soon about how I am justifying that. But essentially, the math works out where I'm producing more solar power in kilowatt hours of power and using like a fraction of what people in a normal household would use.
Yeah.
So it's but, you know, it's all about just proving that you can live in luxury and in comfort without sacrificing all these things and still live in compliance with environmental ideals.
Yes. Well, and also, even if you do use a fraction of, like, power or energy that isn't solar, it is a fraction of what is being used in other homes. And that makes a massive dent. We all saw this with the pandemic when people weren't driving, how, like, the air got purified, nature came back and cleaned things up. It's like, I think that's also a good point to remind people is that we're not telling you not to live, like to use those things. It's how we
No.
use them. Like, it's like,
Exactly.
let's be smarter.
Yeah.
We don't need it all.
Right.
We can live beautifully like the way that you're living. And even if you do use a percentage, it's a percentage. Like,
yeah. And I haven't used a drop of fuel to burn my lights, to run my water heater, to heat the whole house. When normally people don't think about when you flip a light switch on that you're using fuel to make that electricity. That a huge percentage of the energy that comes from the grid that's supplying your house with power is natural gas. Is going to be producing emissions, and no one really thinks about that because it's electric. Everyone charges their electric cars thinking that they are doing something good for the environment when they're charging them on their house, which I just think it's funny. I think people bringing awareness to the issue is all we can really do.
Yeah.
That enacting change is much easier once we've all come to the realization that, oh yeah, this is actually happening.
Yeah.
And stop denying, the global climate crisis.
Well, when you were shooting No Address, did you just live on set with this? Like, is that was
No. Well, originally I was going to have it like at base camp, but we were moving so often, and the place that we were shooting was not entirely safe for me to keep it at. So I actually had it on a winery, which was local. It was nearby. It was a beautiful location. I had it on a little winery. I'll plug it just because he was so kind to let me stay there. His name is Loyal Miner, and he owns the Miners Leap Winery in Clarksburg, Sacramento, and it's lovely little place, beautiful bunch of cats and one beautiful little dog that were my neighbors for a little while. And I just had it parked there for the few months that I was shooting on that.
amazing. Amazing. Well, I mean, thank you for this new version of Cribs style tour, getting to see your home.
Yeah. Tiny cribs, bro. Hell yeah.
So good.
There's going to be a show about it soon enough. There'll be tiny cribs. I know they have like tiny house, giant journey, things like that, but we'll see.
Yeah. Yeah, no, and like, thank you for your message. Like, your messages of supporting the environment, artists, and like mindfulness, and encouraging people to like live their lives. I think it's really easy to get caught up in hustle culture, and no matter what industry you're in. That was so hard for me to say. Hustle. I was like, hustle.
No.
Absolutely.
I heard you.
Hustle culture. Just to feel like you need to get ahead in some type of way, but sometimes what actually gets you further along is taking time to go deep with yourself, taking time to learn who you are and investing who you are. That makes more difference than I think anything else you could do.
I totally agree. I think there's nothing wrong with hustle culture. I myself, I feel like I have definitely pulled a hustle for sure.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think there's anything wrong with it as long as you take that time to center yourself, to return to internalizing and realizing, why am I doing this? Is it for me, or do I care a little bit too much about what people think about what I'm doing?
Yes. Agreed completely. Well,
and still can be, there's nothing wrong with seeking validation, but
No, there isn't.
Love yourself. Love yourself first.
Yeah.
Love yourself first.
Give yourself the validations first, and then the rest is
you all deserve it. You do.
Yeah. Well, thank you again. Thank you everyone who joined today. We are so glad that you could be a part of this, and I'm so happy that we got to reconnect. And once again, thank you for everything that you shared. This was a really lovely time. Yeah,
thank you all very much for joining, and it was really nice talking to you again, man. I know we're going to work together again in the future.
Yeah.
Please keep me updated on everything you've got going on too. We got to stay chatting.
Yes, we will. We absolutely will. And then everyone here, get off social media for the rest of the day. Don't come back until this time tomorrow. Follow Lucas's advice.
Much love, you all.
Okay.
See you, Steven.
Ciao. We shall end this bad boy now.